Hello and welcome to this, the 14th lecture in our series for the course on drought. My name is Richard Baron Cox. I'm head of the UNCCD's Capacity Development and Innovations Office. In today's lecture, we want to look specifically at a very special tool, right? The UNCCD Drought Toolbox 2.0. Before we do that, let me remind you that this series or these lectures for Model 3 are dealing with solutions to drought. How do we tackle the question? And one of the ways that the UNCCD is trying to educate and inform the public is through what is called the Drought Toolbox 2.0. Now, what is this all about? Well, it has a history, okay? And that history is this. The parties to the UNCCD decided that there should be a drought initiative, okay? An initiative to cover the question of drought generally speaking. And part of that initiative is the Drought Toolbox 2.0. 2.0 because it is evolving, okay? This is the last stage of it up to this point in time. And so the parties agreed, and this tool was created. It was created with the help of the Global Drought Observatory and the Research Center of the European Commission. So these two bodies came together to help to create this tool we call the Drought Toolbox 2.0. Now, what it really is a sort of visual tool that you can see globally what is happening with drought. In other words, you go there and there is real data, true information about what is happening with drought around the world. And therefore, it is a tool that educates you, that informs you about drought globally. That's the important thing. Outside of that, this is very important for you to understand, is that it is free. Free, of course. You don't have to pay to use this. So this is the history of the Drought Toolbox. Right, so what does it deal with? Well, in general, it deals with risk, vulnerability, and exposure of countries around the world to drought. In other words, you can use this tool to find out what risk your country faces as regards drought, how much you're exposed to it, how vulnerable you are to drought. And you can do this across the board. In other words, if you live in Kenya, it will tell you that. And if you live in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, where I live, it will tell you that. Now, how does it do that? In other words, what is the content of this tool? Well, firstly, it has what is called an interactive map. This is a map of the world. And you can interact, as you can see here, with that map. You check in regions, check in countries, all parts of the world you can do this. Secondly, right, it gives you the latest scientific information. In other words, real data, true data. It is not something that we imagine, okay? Thirdly, it provides you with guidelines and documents that tells you a lot about drought practically across the globe. Fourthly, it has case studies. In other words, droughts have been happening, and they have been studied. And in this tool, you can have these case studies. Okay, so what you see here is that it provides you with all of that information, but it goes a little bit further. It gives you some guidelines as to some of the solutions, right, that countries can use in dealing with drought. So we know a little bit about its history. We know a little bit about its content. But how do you actually use it? Well, this is the interesting part. This link, you click on this link. And as you see, once you click on this link, then a menu falls down. And you can then use that menu to select an indicator, whether it is risk, whether it is vulnerability, whether it is exposure. And once you have done that, you can then also go to a specific country, like St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Okay, you go to that map, and it would show you that information, whether it is risk, vulnerability, exposure, etc. Okay, and it gives you access to specific, real information. Now, this is valuable. This is important because here now you're not imagining things, right? You have concrete information to deal with this. And if you change from, let's say, vulnerability to hazard, right, it would show you the relevant information equally. And again, at all levels, globally, you know, a region or your own country. Now, that particular indicator hazard tells us one important thing. The drought can happen in almost all countries of the world. In almost. When you look, you can look carefully, and so you can check your own country and you can see whether or not it's possible that your country will have a drought. So this is what this tool is about. It's a tool which provides you with scientific information, right? Educates you, but also give you solutions, you know, as to how we can deal with drought. And it is because of that we encourage you to use this tool. I'm sure you would find it interesting and exciting, but you'd find it informative and educational as well. So you are encouraged to use this tool, not only to have information about your own country, but to have information about drought across the globe. Okay? So that is what I wanted to tell you about this toolbox. We still have one more lecture to go, and until then, I want to remind you, please read the information, the additional information. If you should have any problem, contact us via this email. We will answer your questions, and we would also be grateful that you share this course within your network. Until then, my name is Richard Barron Cox.